So the box itself is just under 17 inches long by about 6.5 inches by about 5.5 inches. Let's get it open and see what's inside. Comes with a bag of hardware that includes a bag of drywall anchors, a bag of short screws, and a bag of longer wall screws. The drywall anchors are 1 3/16 inches. The short screws are 5/8 of an inch. The long screws are about 1.5 inches. We find 6 of these triangular brackets. You can see they have multiple places to place the screws on them. And this is going to give us a high level of versatility in how we hang these shelves. And you'll see here that they have them labeled for us left and right. Of course, we get an instruction manual, and we get 3 shelves of different lengths. They're all the same width at 5/8 of an inch, and they all have the same depth of roughly 6 inches. The shortest one is just under 11.5 inches wide. The medium-sized one looks to be about 14 1/4 inches, and the longest one stretches out to about 16.5 inches. Now, this is Paulownia wood. I like that because it matures in 10 years. It's soft, but it's still really strong. It's got a nice texture to it, and I like the sound to it as well. The brackets are a high quality steel. They have a rounded tube design. It's got a semi-textured feel. It's a black matte color, and it feels like it's a nice resilient metal right here. And they measure about 4.25 inches by about 5.25 inches by about 6.5 inches. So when putting these shelves together, there's a couple different options on how to do it. Now it's a little confusing, so let's go through both of them real quick. The first thing you should know is that the shelves are always going to screw into the plates that are along the hypotenuse of the triangle, and the hypotenuse is the leg that is opposite of the 90-degree angle. So look for these 2 screw holes right here to screw into your shelves. And the first option we have is placing the shelf on top of the bracket itself so it can hang on top of it like that. Now when we do this, we want to make sure that the longer leg that is opposite the hypotenuse is on the outside of the shelf itself. So it can piece together like this, where these screws will be able to go into the wall. You can see the same thing over here. The longer leg should go on the outside, the shorter leg should go to the back, so that you'll be able to screw it into the wall along with the other side. And I like it hanging from this position right here because it kind of gives like a side bracket for whatever you're placing on top of the shelf. And your second option for putting these together is to have the shelf floating on top of the brackets so it can end up looking like this, so then it will just be a flat surface when it's placed up against the wall. Now to do this, again, you'll have the long arm facing the outside of the actual shelf, and you'll set the left one up on the left side like that, and you'll drill them in there, and you'll take the right one and you'll set it up like that, and you'll drill them in there, so when you actually flip it over, the right one will be on the left side, and the left one will be on the right side. Okay, to get started on this project, we're gonna need some tools. First, we're gonna start with a pencil. You might need a hammer if you're gonna hammer the drywall anchors into drywall. You're gonna need a screwdriver with a Phillips head. I recommend a laser level, and you're gonna need a power drill. So to get started with this project, let's decide which panel we want up, and I think this one looks a little bit nicer, so I'll have this one facing up, and which side we want facing forward and back, and I guess I want this side facing back. Now we have our orientation, we can get started. I'll orient the bracket how it should be, face towards the wall, so these screws will go in how I want them to, and then I'll flip it over so I can place my marks where I'm going to insert my first screws. Now that I have those marks, I'm going to press the short screws into them like this as far as I can. Once they're started like this, I'll add the brackets and screw them in the rest of the way. I'm not going to tighten the first one down until I have the second one in as well, and I can tell that it's nice and straight. Now that it looks like it's going on correctly and it's going to be nice and straight, I'm going to tighten them up. Okay, that's on there nice and solid. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, I've got both my brackets on. They both feel super sturdy, and once we have them installed like this, we can move on to the other 2 boards, do the exact same process with all of them, and then we can start installing them. So I'm gonna turn this first one into a spice rack above my stove, and to do that, we're gonna start by finding out where we're going to place our 4 screws here. And to find out where we're going to place our 4, we start with just 1. So roughly I know that I want my spice rack to be about right here, and so I'm going to pick just 1 spot and mark my hole for it. It's going to be the top left spot right there. And now we're going to drill a hole there. And we're going to screw that screw right into here into the wall. And I can just leave it hanging like this while I figure out my next screw. And now that I have that one hanging up, I can figure out this next mark over here by bringing it roughly level and giving myself a vertical mark on where this one is going to be. Now for the next step, I'm going to take the laser level, and I'm going to make sure that the laser goes through the middle of the screw over here and is level on this side. So I can see that I've got a level bubble here, and my laser's going through the middle of the screw over here. Now I can find that level mark, or that vertical mark that I made right here, and I can kind of make a point along this line right here where I think my screw is going to go. Now that I've made my horizontal mark, I can bring up the bracket like that, and I'm going to make a little X exactly where my screw will go along that horizontal line right there. And now we drill our next hole. Now we'll set the shelf and screw in that second screw. And I can tighten up both of the brackets. And now I can use the laser level again to make sure that it's actually level. And sure enough, it's level. Now you could continue on at this point and make some holes in these bottom brackets right here and place in screws, but I think it's already strong enough as it is, so let's test it out for what I'm using it for, which is it's going to be my spice rack. And for this, so far, it seems to be holding up really well. And in the same way that I've installed this one right here, you want to go through the same process installing all of them in the same way. So these shelves are great for anyone who's looking for a variety of ways that they can install things. You can see that I've used mine to make a spice rack. I've used mine in my bathroom to hang onto my toiletries, and I've also used one in my living room next to my front door where I can place like my sunglasses and my wallet and things like that. But they're also really good for anyone who's just looking for something that's really easy to install, as I've shown you. And if there's any negatives to them, they call them floating shelves, but I'm sure that if I didn't screw it into the wall, it would definitely drop. So these shelves are great for anyone who's looking for a variety of ways that they can install things. You can see that I've used mine to make a spice rack. I've used mine in my bathroom to hang onto my hygienics, to hang onto my toiletries, and I've also used one in my living room next to my front door where I can place like my sunglasses and my wallet and things like that. But they're also really good for anyone who's just looking for something that's really easy to install, as I've shown you. And if there's any negatives to them, they call them floating shelves, but I'm sure that if I didn't screw it into the wall, it would definitely drop.